Difference between a winner and a poser. Well, first of all, what's a poser? A poser wants to look like they belong. A poser wants to be the right choice and the right solution. Wants to appear to be the right solution. A poser is an imitator. A poser is an impersonator. A poser is a fake, a pretender, not real, not genuine, not authentic. Like an advertiser who wants to just be on page 1 of Google search, they don't really care whether they deserve to be on page 1. They just want to be there. They're not really relevant, but somehow they're on page 1. They buy into quick schemes of getting rich, flashy ads, and they tempt you with those building membership schemes of like, I don't know what for and I don't really know why, but you can make money by using this proven method to make some easy cash. It's foolproof. It's got a 100% money back guarantee. Horse manure. Those are the fakes. Those are the posers. And now for winners. I'm not talking about winning the lottery or a random drawing or being the 1,000th person to walk through the doorway or visit a website. I'm talking about those who realize that anything worth having is worth working hard for. I'm talking about those willing to put in the time and effort to make it work. I'm talking about those willing to learn, choose a path, and stick to the path, stay the course. I'm talking about those special high-integrity people who deliver value and make a difference. I'm talking about those willing to run the race in its entirety, whether they come in first place or not, because those who keep running, those are the winners. We live in an age facilitated by right now resources, immediate worldwide chat experiences, free video calls, HOA interactive broadcasting. Instead of employing a call center, we are the call center. And instead of hoping that we get big enough to take a percentage of our advertising budget and invest in a call center, we realize that the call center is replaced up front by social media interaction methodologies, and that the future of our online successes rests on the solid foundations we built. For 8 solid months I've been preaching from this digital pulpit the best foundation for any business online and their campaign. It revolves around 3 things. 1, a website. 2, social media in Google Plus using Hangouts. 3, YouTube campaigns, and integrating all these 3 things together. It is what I call the Internet Marketing Tripod, which you've heard me mention a number of times, and that's what it's all about. And from this tripod, we can conduct activities that contribute significantly to our online marketing, promoting education-based marketing, engagement marketing, and establishing influence that leads to inevitably positive branding, community building, and sales. Today I'm happy to present my best example that I've found of exactly what I'm talking about. For this indeed will be the hangout about a smart marketer doing smart things, presenting her genuine, authentic, real self, and running the race. Greetings, Saturday morning marketing smarties and smarties everywhere. Whether it's midday, morning, evening, or night, you are welcome, and thanks a lot for being here. This HOA is all about promoting education, engagement, inbound marketing. You've heard me talk about all the things, and that's what we're going to do today. We're going to give you a really good example of using these technologies. And we have our assistants in presentation flashing in and out, so I don't know how consistent that's going to be, but I will start by introducing one of my people who are trying to be here and succeeded, and that's Karen V. Chin. She's our San Francisco marketer and consultant, and she's a social media engagement specialist. Karen, please say hi.
Hi, everyone. I am so excited today to listen to Heather because I think she's an inspiration with her website, her community, and all the wonderful HOAs that she has. Plus, also, she is a big asset with Ronnie Benser that I'm a member of with Hangout Mastery. So I'm just so jazzed to hear more about your story.
Very cool. And we also have Molly in the audience coming to us from Mobile Land. So I will prompt our mobile Google lady and see if she can say hi from where she is.
Hey everyone, it's Molly and Blue Geiger. I am traveling en route from southern Georgia back to Jacksonville. Looking forward to learning more and being a part of the show.
Okay, thank you, Molly. And I will introduce, although he's not actually with us in the green room, maybe he will see him comment on the outside, but Terry Lee Britton is our other constituent in the green room one of the usual suspects. And he actually knows our featured guest better than maybe any of us, and has had her on his show several times, and is like an icon of comedy to contribute to his show. So hopefully Terry Lee Britton will be back with us, and I introduce him as the Blue Juice Jubilee Crasher Thrasher, and also he's a jack of all trades, master of many. And I've never heard that said before, but if anyone filled the bill, it would be Terry. So without further ado, I would like to bring your attention to our featured guest today and introduce to you Heather Kraafter. Heather, say hi, tell us where you're coming from and a little bit about what's going on with your life.
Oh man, I am a little nervous now after all of that. Wow, you guys are really great. Heather Kraafter. I am a crafty girl trying to make it in a techie world and doing the best I can. I'm one person, got one little job that I do, and I just really try hard to bring everything that I learn to those who are also struggling and might be a small business like me. So hopefully we'll be able to dive into some of that stuff today and maybe even talk about some history. I don't know, whatever you want.
Absolutely. We're going to talk about as much as possible in the hour, so I'm going to cut the heck out of whatever monologue that I would try to add and get right to the point. And the initial thing is we had a very interesting start, you and I, and it was actually facilitated by a suggestion from our partner here, Karen, who suggested that I contact you. So I did. I mean, I took a look at who you were, and I thought, oh my God, she's doing everything right. So I'm going to call this lady, contact her, send her a message, and she responded to my prompt to potentially be on my show. And I don't have very many people on the program. I mean, occasionally I do, and certainly nobody that focuses on being the host of their own show. But I called her up, said, Heather, would you like to be on the show? And she said, no. She told me flat out, and I was just kind of stunned. I understood the reason why, but that was kind of like a shaky beginning for us. And then eventually she took a look at the program, saw what we had going on, and gradually warmed up to the process. And actually, when she finally saw the program, I think that she was ready, willing, and of course able to join us, and decided that she would like to do that.
I will say that watching a few weeks ago, I noticed that your entire goal is to help others, and that's really what I try to do. So I thought, you know what, if you're out there to help others, I will come alongside and do what I can too. So hopefully we can do some of that.
See, but that's the exact same thing that I saw in you that prompted me to have you on the program.
That's really sweet, but I didn't know that from one little meeting. You know that now.
Yeah. And that's absolutely fine. So we're over that, right? And we want to get right into what you are doing. So if I were to get started on the edge of what you're all about, I would like to maybe let's tell your story. Let's tell your story, how you got started and how you progressed from, the ground zero to what you're doing now.
Okay. It's really a simple story because it starts out that I was in my dining room and teaching card making classes to a few people, very small few people, and at some point it kind of grew a little bit, so we decided to maybe move to a building, and we moved to that building, and I was doing a lot of some of the things that I wanted to do there, but it was not really in a good location, and there were just many reasons that it wasn't working out very well. And I spent a lot of time in that building alone while my family was here at home. And at one point they were like, you know, come home. You can do this and do it better here. So we set up in my living room. So I went from the dining room to a building to my living room. We turned the entire living room into what is now known as the Craft Shack, but it turned, you know how business does this, where it kind of metamorphosizes into something else, right? As it's snowballing, as it's building, as it's whatever, it's kind of not exactly what you intended. And this is where I was at one point. I was teaching an after-school art program to kids, and I realized I'm just a babysitter, and parents are dropping their kids off. They don't really care about the art part of it, and they're dropping them off hungry. And at this very moment, I'm standing in my living room looking, well, it's the Craft Shack, but it's my living room, and I'm looking at a little boy over raiding my pantry. And when I said, Michael, what are you doing? He said, I'm hungry. That was a sure sign to me that I am clearly, they're wonderful that they're comfortable. I mean, that's a good thing, right? But clearly they were too comfortable, and I realized this isn't what I wanted to be doing. I wanted to be teaching adults how to be creative. I wanted to be able to hang out with some other like-minded people who wanted to be creative too. But I wasn't really doing that. I was just babysitting and feeding a bunch of little kids. And so we made a decision, and I will say too that I had some health issues that came at about the same time, kind of made the decision a little easier. But we made the decision to pack up everything and just be done with this idea. So when I put together the last box of stuff, okay, and by stuff I mean all my crafting supplies, all the lovelies that I had made to this point, all the little bits and baubles that I've been collecting to create this shack of craftiness, I started to get really teary-eyed, and my husband, who is just a really wonderful supporter, said, you know, maybe instead of you packing all this up, maybe we just move you to the basement, and you don't have to worry about having people over and, you know, making it a big classroom situation, because that's the reason why we use the living room. It's upstairs. The basement's kind of dark and dreary. So he said, why don't we just do that, and I'll make you a craft room. Well, I wiped the tears away, and I went down to the basement where he had installed all this wonderful lighting, and he had put together this great, wonderful craft room for me. And everything is great. It really was great, except I was alone. I was all alone. So there's like no creativity when you're all alone, at least not for me. Maybe for you, but not for me. So I sat here all alone, and I had nothing really to do, and I didn't really want to do anything, and that led me to YouTube. And I don't know if you want to interject now, but I'll let you.
Not especially interjecting. Your story is so fascinating. I mean, you know, at each stage, it led you from one thing to another, like jumping stones in a brook, and just basically it was a logical progression that led you to something productive. And we are not quite there where it'll you know, show us exactly why you ended up broadcasting and exactly why you ended up doing what you do now with the Hangouts and video and your website and so forth. So
yeah,
just a couple more steps, I think.
At this point, I just only had this, what was an idea of a business. I didn't really have a business going on. So when I was sitting alone in this little craft room that had been made for me with this fabulous lighting and surrounded by all these crafty goodies, realizing I'm all alone, I didn't know what to do, and I turned to YouTube to get inspiration, and I, you know, pushed the button, I guess, to play videos and just kind of crafted along with people. And this is where I found that the crafts that I was watching, the videos I was watching, were a little too perfect. And I I kind of got frustrated, and I can tell you about that. What actually led me to do something else, but I know. There's just other things. I'm losing a train of thought here because I just got a pop-up. So sorry about that.
So Heather, I've got a question for you.
Go ahead.
So if you're talking through your transition from going from a building to your living room to your basement, and then finally going into YouTube, how long was that transition that took place? Because for a lot of entrepreneurs, it could take years, or sometimes it could take months. I mean, in terms of your transition, and then.
Well, absolutely. Yeah. So my very first card making class was June 2010, and then my transition to pushing what I call the big blue live button on YouTube and actually presenting on YouTube was January of 2013. So that's the transitionary period, and about, what is that, about a year and a half, 2.5?
Almost three, from 2010 to 2013.
Yeah, June to January. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but so,
Yep. Yeah. So at some point, you're saying to yourself, well, I was saying to myself, I should say, do I keep doing this? I mean, do I really keep pushing through? This is not at all where I started. This is not what I really wanted to do. Throughout the whole thing, that's kind of what I was questioning the whole time. But I wanted to persevere because I didn't want to give up. I don't like giving up. Giving up is. So I just kept kind of going with whatever flow there was, and when I got to the YouTube and I was watching these videos happen, they were too perfect. They were so perfect that as I was following along, crafting along with the person in the video, I would make the same mistakes that I saw them making, even though they weren't showing the mistake. And I kept getting stuck at this one part. Like, I'm watching, I'm doing, I'm pausing, I'm doing, I'm pausing. Then I'm stuck at this part. And theirs looks perfect. Like, how did they do that? Well, I watched close enough and I saw that they edited out the part that they made the mistake on. And I went, you know what's missing? Nobody's doing this stuff live. I mean, really, I'm sitting down here with thousands of dollars worth of crafting materials and supplies, and anybody who's in the crafting industry knows this is a market to be in because it's quite expensive. But I'm down here with all this stuff, and I'm making all these things, and none of it ever goes as smoothly as planned, ever. Like, just like business, right? It never really goes perfect. So what I wanted to do when I saw that there were mistakes being edited out, I wanted to be able to show what happens when you have a mistake. What happens when, glitter explodes on your canvas? What are you going to do about that? How are you going to recover from the ink comes out of the pen and goes everywhere when it's not supposed to? How would you recover if you had a horrible customer service experience and you know that your customer is really mad and is probably going to do horrible things? This is the same kind of thing I wanted to do with business, and there wasn't anybody sharing any of that stuff. So from a live crafting point of view and a live business point of view, I feel like it's the same thing. I want to tell it how it is. So this is where I ended up looking at YouTube and going, they're not doing anything live. And about that time, I think it was like in December of 2012, that I can't remember exactly how it happened, so I'm trying to remember that, but basically what happened was a blue button comes up on my YouTube channel that says, you can go live, push here. So I did, and all I needed was a webcam, and I didn't have one, so we went and bought a webcam, and pretty much I started like the next Monday morning at 8 a.m. with, like, I think I had one viewer, maybe two, watching, and they watched like every day. It was kind of cool. I was no longer alone in my basement. That was kind of fun.
But what I hear you saying, and what marks what I'm listening to you tell about, is you've got an intense lesson on authenticity, and an intense lesson in being real, like reality TV to the max. I mean, you got to see what it's like to be the authentic person coming on and telling it really like it is, not how they want to mold it for the viewing audience. And to me, that's the genuineness of what you do.
Well, I think a lot of us want to present the best us we can, right? I mean, when you go on screen, you want to be presentable, you want to sit up straight, you want to do whatever you can to be the best you possible. But the truth is, there are times when I slouch, there are times when I'm unhappy, there are times when I'm sad, and you're going to get all of that when you know me. So you might as well get all of that when you see me the first time. And it might be goofy, it might be sometimes unpredictable, and it might not be the best thing that people want to see, but it's me. And if you don't want to see me, there's a whole bunch of other YouTube channels out there, I promise. You can watch those. And there's some of them are edited to perfection, so you can enjoy that all you want. But that's not what you get with me. And the same is true with my business. I try really hard to always strive to do what I can to present the best I can, but at the same time, I'm also honest about when I make mistakes. Hey, I didn't get that done the way I thought I would. Let me fix it for you. And the funny thing is, all of this other stuff came first long before I ever had a business. The business came because of all these other things. So after I'd pressed live on the YouTube and went live, a lot of other things happened. And eventually I met this guy named Ronnie Bincer who taught me about Hangouts. At this point, I didn't even know about Hangouts because I was just on this YouTube thing. I didn't even know Google owned YouTube, honestly. And when I got to the point where I knew about Hangouts, I knew about Google+, and I started making connections, and I kept hearing things about being in business and about having a website, and there were a lot of things that I didn't understand. And the biggest one was, your website is your hub. But for me, my videos were my hub. How do I connect the two? It kind of made a lot of sense to do it, but I didn't know how.
We're getting some comments from the stream, so I'm going to give you a breather for a moment.
Okay, good.
And, Michael Thomas says he wants to let you know it's a very impressive inspiration you are, Heather. And Carmen Mandich says, by the way, Carmen, am I pronouncing your name right? You got to let me know, okay? But Heather, that's your basement? Wow, I would have never guessed. It looks like a great place to hang out, literally. And also, we have one from Andrew saying, this is part of his insights as to who you really are. Heather is a glitter explosion expert. I think that he misspelled that. I'm sure that he meant expert. And
he was there for that episode, so of course he would know.
I see. So part of it was you deciding that you wanted to improve your life and your presentation from each stage as you moved forward and forward and forward, and eventually you got led to Hangouts and saw the value. Well, tell me about how you decided to go from just Hangouts to community. When did community and your building a community come into play, and when did that become the focus?
Oh, I love this part of the story because this is where everything starts to really gel and makes a lot of sense. First of all, thanks to Google+, I meet these really awesome people. So there's this guy, Ronnie, I've already mentioned, who teaches about Hangouts, and I learned a lot about being in a Hangout and how to do different things, like you just showed the comment tracker and stuff like that. And then I met some really awesome people like Andrew Hatchett, who's out there in the audience, and Michael Daniels, who's a really good friend, and a wonderful and wonderfully, incredibly inspiring strategist, as if there could be an inspiring strategist, Debbie Davis, who the three of them helped me see all of these wonderful things that are out there. And one of the biggest things that we all started kind of feeling like Hangouts weren't connecting the way that we wanted them to. I wasn't able to connect with my audience beyond the one standalone show. I wanted to be able to say, you know, everything I do is not the same. I don't always do an art journal, and I don't always make cards, and I don't always paint canvases, but I'm always crafty. So we need a crafty space where we can hang out and do stuff together, and everybody can collaborate in there, not just me. It doesn't need to be me standing on a corner talking about stuff. I want the community to come in. And that word makes sense now, but it didn't at the time, community. And Michael Daniels, who's an amazing guy, he's a top contributor with Hangouts, and he is really, really good with communities, loves communities, tells me over and over again, you need a community. So the four of us got together and created not just a community, but we actually created a community-centered strategy that would bring our Hangouts into the community, would grow the community with people who are really interested in the topic, and then would also let those people shine with their talents in what I call works of heart. And they have all done such a great job of showing their stuff, bringing wonderful engagement, as well as uplifting each other. And that's really the whole premise to the entire community. It was just about uplifting each other and having a safe space where you could share these things that are very, very deep and personal. When a person puts a pen to a piece of paper, that sometimes that could be the very first thing that they've ever drawn, and they might love it secretly, but they're too afraid to share it. And this is a safe place where they can go share it, and everybody seems to give total props to everybody who puts out there, because they know they're just as scared. So it's a really great place. And it built because we had the Hangouts that we were doing inside of there. We had a lot of interaction with comments and things like that. And then they shared the community and said, this is a great place, you want to come hang out. And out of that experience grew an online store, and all of the things that you see me doing now are because of that community and the people there.
Well, I want to get to the other aspects of what you do as far as the Hangout itself and your store, that stuff. But I want to just emphasize a point, something that I've been talking about since day one in the Saturday Morning Marketing Smarties, is that if you're not willing to accept and adopt the theory of giving first in what you're doing, the chances of you succeeding with the social media outreach are pretty slim to start with. I mean, the undercurrent of everything that you're telling me, you keep coming back to this and back to this, like the uplifting people, helping others, and developing a resource that emphasizes and affects the people's results of what is happening in their lives, not just creating a show and broadcasting something to them, but actually improving their lives. And I like that, and I see that as the undercurrent primary thing why it's working for you, because you're sincere and genuine, and you really are trying to help people. So it keeps coming back to that.
Oh yeah, 100%. If I get up in the morning and my goal is, what am I going to get out of this, I tend to fall flat on my face by 9 a.m. So what I have really struggled with and has been my biggest goal, it has nothing to do with numbers, it has nothing to do with statistics or analytics or any of those big number words that get put out there. I remember, not a techie girl. I'm a crafty girl, and I'm trying to make it in this techie world. So what I really focus on has nothing to do with any of that stuff. And because of that, I think that the engagement that I get is because of that. And I enjoy it so much. I get emails from people telling me that things are things that we've said on a video or in a hangout or something like that has really made a difference for them. Recently, my latest newsletter went out with a little vlog. It was just a few minutes long, and I showed a piece of art that was going to go in the trash. I had wrecked it. I had made a major mistake with it, and I wasn't even going to show the video that I did of it because it had totally gone a whole nother way and really was wrecked. And I showed the end piece in this little video and said, I said, I'm trying not to be emotional. I said, don't let these things hold you back. Don't give up. When something goes wrong, persevere through it, because in the end you might end up with something totally different but completely beautiful. And I got an email saying that encouraged them not to throw something away and to actually finish the piece, and it ended up being gorgeous. So
Heather, Yeah, so Heather, as you were talking, I was thinking about what you were saying in the past, where you were saying that when you first started in your basement, you were just by yourself. And now, as you're growing that community, and also I would imagine you're on all this, are you on all the different social channels or just on Google Plus?
Oh no, I'm on Facebook and Pinterest and Instagram, Twitter,
You're
wherever
on,
else.
yeah,
I'm on all of it.
you're on.
I'm not, I wouldn't say I'm on all of them because there's a few that I'm not interested in, but I don't know what they are. So
So what I was thinking as you were talking about this is that are you finding with your community and it's growing where you thought maybe at one time as a small business owner that you're just kind of staying local, right? And then you thought, well, maybe I'll be within the state. And then you're thinking, okay, I'm in the United States. And now you're just kind of, I would imagine your community has expanded to even a global outreach in terms of crafters around the world who are supportive of each other, who, are actually because of you creating that community, they're actually meeting and engaging that they would never have had that experience before because you're the one who started that community. And how do
yeah.
you feel with that? I mean, every day I would imagine you get these lovely, whether they're emails or posts or just comments along the way. It must just makes you like tear up and cry because it just makes you feel so like wonderful.
Oh,
more so than monetary
so.
gains from that.
Yeah. Very much. I was once asked about return on investment. Okay, so with all that you do, what's your ROI? I've heard this question multiple times from other people, but I was point blank asked this. And honestly, I've made a few $100s in a week. I've made a few $1,000s in a month. I've done that. What has been the most return on my investment are the wonderful emails, the great YouTube comments, the fantastic enjoyment that I see people having who may not have had it otherwise. That way bigger than any dollar I could ever get. And I mean I've had moments where I've struggled financially and some people have come through because of that, but to be perfectly honest with you, if I shut everything else down, put the store away and never invested another dime and just did videos, I know that I would be sustained emotionally forever because I do have wonderful people standing behind their computers and typing me messages telling me wonderful things, and that keeps me going to tomorrow. Because the dollars are a bonus.
Yeah, because I would think that just for me, I mean, personally within my own community, I get great satisfaction for just feeling that I made someone's day. It's not necessarily the monetary, the ROI. I mean, yeah, that would be great. That's the other aspect of it. But I do have to say that there is actually one quote out there, a comment from Terry. Roland, if you could bring that up, that
it'll come up in a second, but it's not exactly what I had lined up to go. Let me see if I can get it.
Yeah, so Terry actually has something that I think it's going to make you tear up. Because,
oh boy.
Here it is.
Yeah, so this just so be aware. So this is Terry saying how much that you have been an inspiration to him, and for him to create his lovely Blue Juice Jubilee show.
Oh my goodness! Wow, I didn't realize that, Terry. You know what? Terry Lee Britton is an inspiration, and you guys all already know that because you're all fans of his. But I mean, this is just what I'm talking about. Okay, so I meet people on G+, and I get to know these people. Not just on G+, they end up following on Facebook. They end up following on Instagram. I just got a whole bunch of people showed up on Instagram recently because I've been showing some behind-the-scenes stuff. But see, being able to connect with people on these different places and showing them a different side of who you are allows them to feel connected to you, and then they get inspired. I would have never guessed in a million years that I inspired Terry Lee Britton, but if I did, I adore you, and you know it. Where's my mute button? But anyway.
Yeah. So Roland, can you show that back up again for everyone to see it?
Nope. Because maybe I guess so.
Yeah. Here you go. So Terry Lee is basically saying for Heather is Heather was ultimately the inspiration for me to do the Blue Juice Jubilee variety show. By the way, and for the Blue Juice Jubilee community, I just started.
Yeah, I did see he just started that. Yeah, I did see he just started that. So that's awesome because honestly, that's what this is all about. We teach each other, we help each other, and we inspire each other. And that is why I love Google+. I mean, over and above every other social media site out there. I love Google Plus for that reason. I've seen some connections on Facebook. I've not really understood Twitter all that much, but Google Plus, I have formulated deep relational bonds with people who I've spent lots of time. Andrew and Michael, we hung out last night pretty late, and even my youngest son, who is now becoming a YouTuber, is also hanging out and enjoying the time because of Google Plus. So I don't know. I'm a fangirl. What can I say?
We have additional comments, and I wanted to just bring up a few of them. Christy Lambert says, Heather would be awesome on Meerkat and Periscope. And by the way, I'm researching now to be able to integrate Meerkat and or Periscope into the Hangouts, because I understand their reaches can be pretty awesome. So there's a possibility there. Thank you, Christy. Denver Prophet says, he learns best from demonstration education. Might not make a scrapbook, but hey, how about a birdhouse?
I love it, Denver. That's great. That's great.
And then Lynn Sanders makes the comment, Heather is so inspiring about being comfortable and fearless on the camera. And I have to agree that the one thing that's so natural about what you do is, people will look at you and say, man, she's fearless. She's not afraid of the camera. She's not nervous. She's totally natural. And people accuse me of being something similar, even though I don't look at the camera when I'm talking and stuff like that. But they say, you just seem so relaxed. And eventually it gets that way. I don't know if it's something that you have to practice, or is it a very natural thing for you?
I think because I started this whole process, really, honestly, with all this talk about not being selfish or anything, I was really selfish. This is my whole purpose, was to reach out to other people and have people to craft with. So selfishly, that's the reason why I pushed the live button in the first place. And, my whole goal was, I just imagined I was hanging out with the friends that I was hanging out with. And there happened to be somebody on the other end while I was watching YouTube who would leave comments, and I know her personally, so it really felt like it was just the two of us in the craft room. I never looked at it as broadcasting to the world. I never thought about it that way, and I think because I never thought about it that way, when I am broadcasting to the world is probably going, who the heck is this lady? But you know what, I don't care. I really don't care.
Well, the one thing that's very inspirational about you, Heather, when watching you, because I've watched you now, not just recent stuff, but going way back in terms of like Hangout Mastery and way back before the background that you have there when you were like maybe a year and a half, way back when, is that you have this knack for just going with the flow. So if something happens, you just keep going. You don't stop. You just keep going. And I think that's what I think a lot of people should just be aware of, that if you make a mistake, just keep moving on. And because the camera's on, it's live. It's like live television. You just keep moving on, and that's what you do really well. And also, your facial expressions are just priceless too.
Yeah, you do have to be a little animated to be on video, that's for sure. But I will say that, anybody who knows me, who's ever heard me tell a story in person, can say this is me all the time. I just happen to have a headset on. I don't usually have a headset on. That's the only difference, really. So, but truthfully, with all sincerity and honesty, the real thing that I think people should bring home from this entire hour or however long we're together is just be yourself. Just whatever you're doing, no matter what it is. You might not be into crafts, and you may never ever watch my show, and that's totally fine. But being yourself, whether you're on camera, whether you're on the internet, whether you're in social media, whether you are doing something in your website or packaging a thing to ship off to your customers, whatever it is, be yourself. If you're not true to yourself, don't do it. Whatever that is, don't do it.
Okay, I've got a couple of comments that we have to make, and we've got several breakdown sub-subjects that I really want to catch before our hour is up. We're probably going to go a little over, and I don't care if we do. I'm hoping that we can squeeze this all in. But I want to add a couple comments. One that Lynn Sanders makes. Well, Heather, your story about building a community is the same as the acronym behind the word team. Together, everyone achieves more. And so she brought that up, and I love that statement. Thank you very much. And Carmen Mandich says, the inspiration one receives here is immeasurable and limitless. And Dave Williams has a good quote, a good statement that he's made, that you, Heather, are modest and you pay it forward from the help that you received. You pay it forward. Without her support, I wouldn't have been able to launch my monthly Coping with Cancer HOA. She's a super fantastic person. So, compliments from the field. Obviously, you've helped people and devoted yourself to a cause with the undercurrent always of helping people. And that's probably what grabbed me the most to invite you here in the first place. So,
well, that's what
continue on.
prompted me to say yes, Roland. So you have the same gift, really. I mean that, and I think you had said it at one point. And I don't know if this was when we were privately talking, but people, gravitate towards each other because of some of these things. So, really, again, going back to I love Google Plus and being able to connect with people this way, using Hangouts to be face-to-face and get to know a person a little bit better, allowing me to then be on your show, which is really awesome. I mean, all this stuff is really, really important to being who you are, but also to being in business. And you might be thinking, this is a lot. You're doing a whole lot. You're on all these different places, and you must have a new thing that I just started this week, 67,000 monkeys work for me. No, I don't. I really don't have, I only have this monkey right here. That's it. And how I do that is really simple. I have framework, which I learned this from Debbie Davis, just so you know. I have a framework that I follow through on, and I focus. So it's framework, focus, and follow through, and I remain fluid through the whole process because anything and everything can happen. So the framework that I set up is something really simple. If you wanted to talk about that, we could, but it took me a little bit of time to set it up, but once it's in place, I just work through it and I just follow through on the things that I've set up, and the things that don't, I reevaluate and I go back and I make changes to them, and then I always know what I'm focused on, and that is, as you've said a few times already, is focusing on others.
Yeah. Now I'm moving on, not because I'm not paying attention to what you're saying, because I don't want to miss the stuff on my list. And part of what you're talking about is a movement that took you global. And so we have to understand that we might have some idea of what we want to do. Like Saturday Morning Marketing Smarties used to be a Saturday program for Southern Californians in Orange County area, and now I have more people watching from the world than I do in Southern California. But going global is definitely a factor that we need to consider. Now, another thing that you touched on is that I would want to exemplify as far as being an important factor of what you do is you really focused on organizing and scheduling. And you told me in our discussions earlier that you did some extensive scheduling. You wrote things down and planned out your moves, and they materialized in a very organized, planned fashion.
Yeah, going back just a little bit to that part where I said I'd met with these really wonderful friends, super brainiacs, and they helped me build this community and really focus on getting the community moving and in the direction we wanted, but I still had some disconnect. I still had this website out there floundering, and I'm not a blogger. I'm really, really bad about blogging, so I was struggling to make that connection. I had a YouTube channel, but it wasn't really being focused on to produce YouTube-worthy videos that would be watched. I had a Facebook page, but how do you even use Facebook? I have no idea. But there's like Twitter. I got on Twitter because I was kind of forced to get on Twitter, and I don't mind it, but I don't get it. So I had all these little things out there. Then I got into Instagram, which everybody, a lot like some of the people have said in the audience, Meerkat and Periscope would be awesome. I've had the same thing happen to me in the last 2 weeks. Multiple people saying this. I don't know it though. So my reluctancy, I guess, is because I just don't know it yet. But you watch, I'll probably be there soon. But so I get onto Instagram and I'm thinking, this should be cool, but what the heck do I do here? And when I started evaluating all these different things that I had out there, all these places where I had my fingertips touching, I realized I didn't have any clear message. I didn't really know what I was doing there, and I didn't know why. So if I didn't know what I was doing or why, then what in the world was I doing there in the first place? So my thought was this: either do it and know why you're doing it, or give it up. So I sat down with a piece of paper and a pen. I wrote up at the top of each, like a column, basically. I wrote up there that I wanted to make sure that I knew which, what do you call them, social media sites, I guess, I was on, and what I was going to do there. What was my story? Why? Why am I there? And so because I did that, I went to even my personal stuff, not just my business, but even my personal stuff, and I went, Heather on Facebook does this. And I wrote down, I post about my granddaughter, I connect with my family there, I share some things from Instagram from time to time there, that kind of stuff. That's on my list. What about Google+? What do I do business-wise on Google+? Well, I want to focus on the website, of course, but I also want to bring light to other people, especially other crafters who are in my community. So I make sure that that is what I do over there. Once I had all this stuff written down and I knew exactly what I was doing where, then I went to my favorite tool, which is the Google Calendar. I love Google Calendar. And together with my Gmail account and my, it's right here. I almost never go anywhere without it. It might be quiet, but I never go anywhere without my phone. And you're probably the same way nowadays, right? So because I have my calendar and my email and my phone all integrated with each other, I get constant reminders telling me to do the things that I just wrote down. So pretty simple. I spent a whole day doing this, though. I have to tell you, it was probably, I think I went back and looked after we talked, Roland. I think it was 9.5 hours I spent setting up this whole process, from the time that I wrote down what it is that I do on these sites to being totally scheduled and ready to rock, okay? And this process works for me. Might not work for you. Not even talking about the process working for you. We're talking about finding a process and using it. That's what we're talking about. So for me, I wrote those things down. I implemented it into my calendar. I get little reminders. Things pop up on my phone. If I have time, this is where the fluidity comes in. If I have time and I'm sitting there doing something or not doing something and it pops up and reminds me, hey, you need to do this, then I do it. If I'm busy, like say eating dinner with my family, ignore. It's that simple. I don't let it rule my life, but I do allow it to steer me in the direction I want to go.
Molly had a question, I mean not a question, actually a statement that actually accents this whole idea of organizing and scheduling and planning. And so I'd like to let her add that, and then we have some comments that I don't want to let go. Go ahead, Molly.
Yeah, sure. Real quick, I'd just like to touch upon what she was talking about, small businesses using Google as a resource. Google has a lot of resources for small businesses. You can check out Google My Business and also the Google Small Business Community. There are many, many resources that Google offers small businesses to not only get online, have a website, but to actually optimize their web presence on Google as well.
Yeah, so we have to understand we're actually going to have a session very soon where we talk about Google Documents and Google various things that they offer, and so we'll be covering that sometime soon. But I needed to go to the comments because Terry Lee Britton said framework, focus, and follow through. I could use some of that, and that definitely is applicable to every single one of us. So other people have some comments, and Michael Thomas thinks he's wrapped up his description of Heather. He says, resonating quality and honesty with a collective direction and a definition in the immeasurable presence. That's how I see Heather Kraafter. So thank you for that, Michael.
Michael, I think I owe you a check or something. Send me your address.
Hey, Heather, I got, I guess, another statement from what I'm listening to you with all this great advice that you're giving. But, you know, besides all the Google products and stuff to get you organized, but I think what I keep hearing over and over again is that set yourself up with a core of folks that will basically be honest with you. I think I hear where you keep resonating. Who'll tell you the truth, who'll also be supportive, but yet tell you if it doesn't look good, it doesn't look good, or if it's right, it's right. But it sounds like you definitely should have a supportive group with you while you're doing, well, anyone, for small business or big business, or just a core, so that you have your core constituents that you're following, that they're helping you as you're helping them.
Yeah, definitely it's important. You know, being in business for yourself doesn't mean you have to be by yourself. You have to remember that. So reaching out to others and wherever they are. I mean, if they're your next door neighbor, that's great. For me, remember, I'm down in my basement all alone, and there is nobody around me who wants to do any of this. So reaching out globally, reaching out across the internet was really the only way that I could do it. And I'm thankful, so thankful that I did, because I met such wonderful people, including you guys. I mean, being able to meet you guys, talk with you, hearing what Molly has to say. I know she's a guru on Google, so it's always good to hear. And Karen, your interactions are always great. I always love hanging out with you too. So, but you know, I mean, it's just fabulous. And I got to spend 2 whole hours with Roland earlier. So, I mean, that was pretty phenomenal. Don't tell him I said that, but it's true.
I won't mention it. And
Okay, good.
more comments. Lynn Sanders says, that's very inspiring, Dave Williams. And this is referring to the earlier comment that Dave made about Heather's influence on his work. Heather Kraafter's model is spreading a positive ripple effect. So you're affecting more people than you think you are, and we all are, but we can't, if we're trying to do the right thing at the right time, and if we're consistent with that, we can affect more people than we think that we are. And that's part of the energy and power of the universe. And Debbie Foran said earlier, Heather Kraafter, you are always a joy to watch, such an inspiration. So I wanted to share all these things, and they're so coming at us so fast. I'm missing some as we go also. So I apologize to that. The people are commenting. I'm sure that we're going to want to go through the stream and just, you know, identify those things and read them so that we don't miss them at all.
Yeah, absolutely. I really am grateful. There's just wonderful words that all of you are saying, and it's great. What I was really hoping, though, is that I could bring not just some inspiration, but also some ideas for how you could implement your small business, you know, easily. It is a lot of hard work. This is hard work, but it's worth it. And there are some things that are, you know, time consuming, but once you invest that initial time, I don't spend more than probably 20 minutes in a total day on social media doing my social media work. I do hang out in Hangouts with friends for more than 15 or 20 minutes because I like my friends, but you know, I also spend time with my family, and I'm out in the real world breathing oxygen out there where trees are and stuff. I do it all, believe it or not. I actually do it all. And I have 3 beautiful grandchildren that I get to hang out with too, so it's possible. You can do it. You just have to initially invest that work that it takes to set up your framework, then focus on what you need to get done. Remember to follow through, because it's not enough to just start something. You actually have to get all the way to fruition, and try to be fluid about it, because things happen. And by the way, I just want to say that's not my scope. That's all Debbie Davis's scope. I'm stealing it, though.
That's really good. You're definitely an example that I felt that other people would appreciate seeing and appreciate interacting with and being influenced by, because you're very, very charismatic, for one thing. And far beyond the little touch point on your lip, you are just simply, you know, it's, I don't know, it's an energy that comes off of you, but it's part of that sincerity and honesty and things that, you know, we can mention them over and over again, but unless they're not real, I mean, you're part of the fakes and the posers that we were talking about in the first 5 minutes of this presentation. That's not you. This is you, and it's a real deal. And so I'm really happy to have you on the show for this. we've mentioned in our discussions things like hashtags and the value of the use, but I don't want to get into that. I just want to mention that you use them, and we covered organization. I don't want to miss this hour and not talk about the actual things that you do, because people want to know what you do, not just how you do it and how you build your community and how you interact with the people. What is it that you do, and what do you love to make and develop and to do? What do you love?
Well, I love all things crafty. What I really love the most, I think, is being artistic without being snooty. That's something that I say quite often. I want to be able to share an artistic quality because art is subjective. We all have things we like and don't like. It doesn't make one better or worse. It just makes it something that touches you. So I really do like to be artsy without being snooty. And one of my favorite things I just made is that piece I was telling you about earlier where I was going to throw it in the trash because I thought it was garbage. So can I hold that up and show it?
Yeah,
right
absolutely.
Here? Okay. All right. Obviously, I made my background. You can see that. So I'm going to step over here and grab this. This was the first piece I'll show you was kind of like let's see if I can do this without it being in the, there we go. Okay. I took this camping. This is actually a piece of wood, and it was painted all these purples that you see. And then I did some funky stuff with it and made it so it looks like this, okay? This was kind of a test, just to see how it would go. This was supposed to be the real piece, and it ended up making a huge mess. Let's see if we can do it. It's kind of funny to have your lower third all over the place, but here we go. So this was what it was supposed to be, but now I don't know if you can tell, but some of these purple spots here didn't quite work out well. See how the orange is kind of peeling away? Well, I made it my advantage. I took it to my advantage and said, it really looks fractured now, and I added some fractured lines inside of there and everything, but this is just a piece of art that I made that really touches me because it was going to go in the trash. It actually made me angry. I did a video about this. It'll be posted this week, but I explained in the video, I was really mad. At one point during the video, I even tell you, I'm really angry right now. Because it just totally wrecked it. But the whole point was to be, persevere through it and be able to share that it doesn't have to be perfect. And in the end, it might even be better than you thought it would be than what you started with.
Heather, I don't know if it makes any sense to ask you for a closing statement. I just realized we only have 2 minutes.
Only 2 minutes?
Yeah, but that means 5 to 10 in my book.
Oh, okay. All right.
Because we're going to probably go over time here. And what I hear in your message, it's the same basic theme throughout the whole thing is helping others, helping people, lifting others, holding them up, and then the whole thing about being honest. I don't think everyone naturally can be honest. I don't think it's part of everybody because we're all trying to be something that we imagine is better than what we are. And what you continually tell is be who you are and just tell everybody, show everybody who you are. And that's kind of been my mantra too. It's like, well, if you don't like what I'm doing, sitting back and not looking at the camera, well, click away, turn the knob, go away. I don't care. But if the people who want to stay here and get something out of the program appreciate that, then they're welcome to be here. So do you have any of your own final messages that you would like to present to the people? And also I want to ask if any of my other constituents in the green room have any other last comments to make or any questions for Heather. But I'd like to turn it over to you now, Heather.
I guess the one thing that I would really hope that I could leave you with today is just do it. Whatever it is that you want to do, just give it a shot. I mean, if it is building a birdhouse, if that's what you're after, then do it. Don't worry about it being perfect. Don't worry about it being anything else. And don't worry about it being better than anybody else, because really the only person you have to be better than is the person you were yesterday.
Wow. So self-improvement is something that actually has been an undercurrent of my own mantra for quite some time, being Japanese. One of the Japanese things is that we have this thing called Kaizen, and that's from the nationalist, historic Japanese culture. And Kaizen basically implies a theme for never-ending improvement. And that's also something that Anthony Robbins preaches. He calls it kanai, which I could never figure out why he calls it kanai. It should be I can. He calls it constant and never-ending improvement. And to me, that's a question, can I? And if you say I can, then you lead with improvement. And it's improvement, constant, and never-ending. Now that's a statement, and that's more my tendency. But I hear that that's the part of what you're emphasizing now too, is like we can always improve, we can always do better, and we should always be trying. So if we set ourselves up for the whole idea of the process here is improvement, and I'm just a thing in process and developing, then that makes more sense to me than just trying to be something perfect so people can take a snapshot picture of us and put us on a poster. So I really appreciate what you're getting at there. So does anyone else have any questions for Heather? We could keep on talking for another hour because we've done it, I know. But let's see. Molly just listed some stuff in the comments for the Google resources. And Karen, if you have anything last to say. But basically we've been out of time for a couple minutes. And Heather, I just want to say that it's obvious to me that the people in our audience, whether they have known you for some years or whether they're just getting to know you now, I'm sure it's going to be a fan club extended. And it's something that I know that grows off of you because that's the energy that you permeate as you go. I want to let Molly say something here.
Yeah, I just want to really quickly just say it was a pleasure meeting you today, and I think your story exemplifies what a small business owner goes through whenever they try to get online. And it's people like yourself, when you do these case studies, you build your community, you really use yourself as an example to show other business owners that it can be done. You just don't quit and keep trying.
That really tops it off, Molly, because one of the reasons I wanted Heather on the show today is to show people who are sitting out there and not doing, not engaging, not starting, that if you do get started, it'll lead to something and you can do. The theme should be you can do, but you got to get started somewhere. And so, Heather, I thank you for being just a wonderful example of what I was trying to express for months now. Thank you for accepting the invitation, and above all, thank you for being a friend.
Absolutely. I'm really glad to be able to call you a friend, Roland. Thank you for having me. And thank you for meeting me or meeting you or whatever it is that I wanted to say, Molly. And Karen, it's always great to hang out with you.
Okay, so we're going to wrap it up with that, and we welcome additional comments, and we'll be more than happy to follow up and answer those things. But basically, what is the difference between winners and posers? You got a really good look at that today. Thank you very much. Signing off for Saturday Morning Marketing Smarties. Thanks to you all. Thanks all of you for being here, and good day to you.